Interest rates have risen, and our guest today is here to answer some burning questions. Andy Alexander with Community Banks of Colorado has been a mortgage banker for over 30 years and an expert in resort lending. So, Andy, tell us, what is your take on rising interest rates?
Well, the interest rates have gone up already. I didn't expect them to go this much at all. It's kind of been a surprise for all of us. I was thinking closer to the mid fours, and right now we're in the high fives to the low sixes. We've got pricing at levels that we haven't seen since 2008, and the banks are aggressively tightening monetary policy to fight inflation. The Fed raised the rate 0.75% a couple of weeks ago, and that helped keep them down a little bit, and investors have reduced their outlook for economic growth. As a result, mortgage rates declined a little bit. It just remains to be seen if they're going to continue to go up or if they can stay where they are, or perhaps maybe drop a little bit.
Do you think it's still a good time for someone to buy with the current interest rates?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it's a good time to buy because if you can find the home that you want, you need to go ahead and buy it. Nationwide, there's a shortage. In our local market, the inventory is so low that you can't afford to wait. Sales of existing homes have gone down for the fourth straight month since June of 2020, and it's about 10% lower than last year. The supply of homes nationwide is dropping drastically, especially in the lower price ranges. Median home prices went up 15% over the last year, and nationwide it's at $407,000. The Fed told lawmakers that we're strongly committed to bringing down inflation, and the current economic conditions are generally favorable with consumer demand and a strong labor market, but the war in Ukraine and the shutdowns in China due to COVID have just added to the inflationary pressure, which is driving rates up.
Andy, in your opinion, what's the cost of waiting, and do you anticipate a market correction?
Well, if we're talking about just our local markets in the resort areas of Colorado, northern New Mexico, ski towns, I really don't think there is a good reason to wait because there's such limited inventory that if you find a house that's available, you need to hop on it. Interest rates don't seem to be pushing people away from buying right now. And you can keep in mind that your interest rate that you're getting is probably not going to be there for the life of the time that you own the home. The life of the loan is probably only going to be 3 to 5 years, where you might own the home on average, 7 to 10 years. A lot of people refinance, but if the home's not available, you can't buy it.
And why do you think we won't see a repeat of 2008?
Well, back then, people were highly leveraged, and we were also going off of a time when people could get loans if they had a pulse. And now that's not the case anymore. People have to qualify. We have to make sure by government regulation that people can qualify. And in our resort markets in particular, my biggest competition is cash. I mean, most people are either very low leveraged or not at all. They own their home without a mortgage. So it's going to be a totally different time if we do have a recession or a correction. I don't think we're going to see anything like we did before.
Right. It's no secret that our local lenders are much more successful in financing here in Telluride than national lenders. Can you explain why that is?
Yes. So when you use a national lender, they are following very strict guidelines that are set up by Fannie and Freddie. And when you use a local lender, we're the people that live here. We have relationships with the people and businesses it takes to close a real estate transaction. And we all have portfolio financing. It's aggressively priced and it doesn't have the constraints of the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines. We know the real estate market here. If we have a unique, different kind of market than if you live in the real world, or let's say suburban Denver or New York. The buyer really needs to have a local resort expert to get it to the closing table successfully. Myself and my friendly competitors have portfolio products that are aggressively priced. Our underwriters are used to working with us. Here in Telluride and the other ski towns, we have condo hotels. We have non-warrantable condos, super jumbo loans. And then right outside of that resort market, you've got ranches in rural areas, farm areas. So if you're working with somebody that isn't intimately familiar with property, they're not going to be as successful getting it closed. The underwriters aren't going to understand what it is when they get it in front of them a week before you're supposed to be closing, and your loan could be denied. I routinely rescue loans from the big banks that can't get them closed, and then they have to start all over when they come to us.
Right. So Andy, can you explain to us what is the difference between a mortgage banker and a mortgage broker?
Yes. To some people, it really doesn't make a difference one to the other, but a mortgage banker actually works for a bank that has a portfolio of loans that they keep within the bank, and they have their own underwriting guidelines. So they don't follow national lending rules like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, FHA or VA, which can be far more constrictive on the unusual type of properties that we have in the resort market. What we run into now all over the nation is if you have your house or part of your home, when you're not using it, if you put it in a short-term rental pool like Airbnb or VRBO, if an underwriter sees that, and they will go and Google the home to see if it is in one of those short-term rental pools, they'll automatically deny the loan.
Wow.
Where if you have a local lender who's got a portfolio, we know that's the case. Oftentimes we'll let you use the income to help you qualify. So you want to use a local lender that is very familiar with your market and the unusual properties we have.
Great. Andy, can you explain to us the loan process from start to finish?
Sure. It's complicated. I've been lending my entire career, and I still get nervous every time I apply for a loan. So I understand the stress involved with the mortgage. Combined with the uncertainty of the negotiating at the real estate transaction, it can be a very complicated process. I try to take a lot of the anxiety out of the transaction by listening to my clients' goals and objectives, and then structuring their loan to meet those goals. Oftentimes we need to be very creative with our loan products, and by having a good idea of what the client needs, we can piece them together to make it work. And usually I like to have the clients pre-qualified prior to making an offer on a home. It makes the entire process a lot easier if the application is well underway before the contract. There's tons of documentation for most loans. A lot of our clients are self-employed. Many of them have multiple businesses. And so when you start the application, you can really determine what you need. It's like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. And when I look at a tax return, it might lead to one additional piece of information I need or 50 more puzzle pieces depending on what's in that tax return. And if you let everybody know up front what they need to provide for documentation, it makes it a lot easier. One of the favorite aspects of my job is assisting first-time home buyers. For them, it's the biggest purchase they've ever made, and home ownership is the only way that they can be certain that they continue to live in this paradise that we call home. And I've got clients that I've probably done 15 transactions for, and lots of homes that they've bought over the years, but a lot of them started out as first-time home buyers.
That's awesome. Andy, why should someone work with you?
Well, I've been lending here in Colorado for over 35 years, and my team and I pride ourselves on communication and doing what we say we will get done. I have in-depth conversations up front with the client and what we're going to provide, what they need to expect from us, what we expect from them. We operate with integrity, clear communication, honesty, and we'll do what we say we're going to do. We're going to get your deal done for you. And I think you're going to, make an onerous process not quite so bad.
And I can attest to that, as me and my husband have used Andy multiple times. So.
Yep.
Well, thank you for joining me today and providing some incredible insight to the current market conditions. As always, please make sure you like this video and subscribe for more great content on the real estate market here in Telluride and surround resort towns.
Thank you, Eva.
Thanks.